Welcome, everyone. Before we begin, we will have a prayer led by Councilman Carlos Graham, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. God of grace and mercy, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of Jefferson City. Help us as council members act with character, conviction, and dignity. Help us to listen to our constituents with understanding and goodwill. Continue to give us a spirit of service. Guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us to see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us and to treat all persons, no matter the differences we may have, fair and equal. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for where you have placed us at this time. Bless our first responders. Bless the men and women serving in the military to help keep our country safe. In your darling Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone, to the Monday, October 1st, 2018 City Council meeting. Mrs. Donaldson, or let's call the meeting to order, and Mrs. Donaldson, roll call, please.
Fitzwater.
Present.
Graham.
Here.
Hensley. Hussey.
Here.
Kimna.
Here.
Mahalovich.
Present.
Prather.
Here.
Schreiber. Ward.
Here.
Wiseman.
Present.
Item 3, adoption of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda by adding these 3 items under item 4, miscellaneous item. Item A, Buckle Up, Phone Down proclamation. Item B, Mayor's Cup Award winner. And item 3, introduction of Mayor Turgeon's family visiting from Greece. Is there a motion?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 4, miscellaneous agenda item. We'll start with the Buckle Up, Phone Down proclamation. And at this time, I would like to invite Mr. David Sylvester, Mrs. Nicole Hood, and Mrs. Natalie Rourke to the podium. And we are going to celebrate Buckle Up, Phone Down Day this month. And this is the 2nd annual Buckle Up, Phone Down Day. We're very glad to have all of you here this evening to celebrate. And I will read this proclamation in preparation for celebrating Buckle Up, Phone Down Day. Whereas the Missouri Department of Transportation and the Missouri Coalition for Roadway Safety are challenging you and those you know at home, work, school, and community to buckle up and put your phone down. And whereas the challenge is simple, when you get into any vehicle, buckle up your safety belt. If you're a driver, put the cell phone down. Turn it off if you have to. No texting and no talking unless hands-free. And whereas nearly 7 out of 10 people killed in 2017 Missouri traffic crashes were unbuckled, and over the last 3 years, crashes involving cell phones have increased by more than 30%. And whereas all week long, employees and safety partners will be making special efforts to reach out to businesses and individuals alike by buckling up and putting your phone down, even for one day, you will be doing your part to make Missouri's roads safer. Let's save lives and turn this day into a week, a month, and eventually every trip, every time. Whereas the simple task of buckling everyone in the vehicle and choosing not to use your phone while driving can help save your life, the lives of your passengers, and occupants of other vehicles. And whereas Mayor Turgeon encourages everyone to buckle up, phone down every day and arrive alive, it's time to join the movement, stand up and be counted. Take the challenge at modot.org/buckleupPhoneDown. Therefore, I, Carrie Turgeon, Mayor of the City of Jefferson, do hereby proclaim Friday, October 19th as Buckle Up Phone Day in the City of Jefferson. So happy to promote that. So thank you for all your efforts to MoDOT. You're welcome. We appreciate MoDOT's spearheading this effort. It's hard to believe it's been a year since we did this already, and Buckle Up, Phone Down should certainly be every day. We also celebrate Phone Down Fridays, as you know. We have a hashtag for that as well, so we just want to encourage everyone to do that. So like I said, it's October 19th. It gives us plenty of time for all of us in the community to talk with our employers, with our family, with our friends, and make sure that we're celebrating that special day. So any council comments? All right, and anything to add, or y'all? Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. We had several mayors from around the state that are really embracing this concept as well. So if we could, we'll get a picture here. If all of council would come up, we're going to do the buckle up, phone down hand signal here, and we'll get a picture with the proclamation. Poor Aaron, can you draw it? Oh, you're halfway there.
It has to be right up, because that's what I'm doing.
Right up?
Right up?
Right, do it right now.
I'm a lefty though, so that's my dominant.
I'll try not to lump you down.
Thanks. Wide
Hussey has both thumbs down, Madam Mayor. That's right. I expect that your old fingers to be up behind.
Item B, we have a special award to present. It is the Capital City Sailing Association's Mayor's Cup. I'd like to invite Mr. Jim Crabtree to the podium, who is this year's winner of the Mayor's Cup. Congratulations, Jim. Very proud of you. This is an annual event, and many of you know that you can sail at Binder Lake. Tell us about Capital City Sailing Association.
Well, first, I'll tell you by thanking the city for the cooperative agreement that the Sailing Association has. We started out 10 years ago with 5 members, 5 boats. We have over 30 members today. We have people coming from Columbia, coming from the Lake of the Ozarks to sail with us. And we use competitive sailing as a teaching tool. You have to get from point A to point B. It's a triangle, and you have to do it in the right sequence and in the right time, and it's a wonderful learning tool because you get to see what other people around you are doing to make it work the best. And really, really proud of the success that this Sailing Association has had. It's a very wholesome, lifelong sport that's green, environmental.
It sure is. And it's beautiful to get out on Binder Lake. It's wonderful to get out on the boat, and it's harder than it looks. There is a lot of skill and a level of skill involved, and that's what's really cool about the Mayor's Cup tournament. You get to see all of the boats in action, all the sailboats, and there's people from all over central Missouri and even beyond that come here for this.
Yeah, it's very competitive, and you're right. It can be a very physical workout.
Yes.
But it's fun, and I enjoy the competitiveness. This year my goal was to sail in it. Last year I just sit out because of health reasons, and once I got out there I said, I think we can win it this year.
Well, and you sure did. Well, congratulations. This is an honor to present this to you. So on behalf of the city, congratulations, and we'd love to get a picture together here. right, and item C, this is very exciting for me tonight. I get to introduce my family who came over from Greece. They're visiting Jefferson City. They've been here before, but it's exciting to have them here. They've never been here while I've been mayor, so it's very exciting to have them here in Jefferson City. So I'd like to invite my family to the podium, and I'll have introduce who they are. So this is my aunt and uncle, Ted and Kula. So come on up here, and I'd love to introduce you. I also have, of course, we know my mom and dad, Jim and Irene. If you want to go to the podium there, and you can, we'll introduce, well, you don't have to. Come on forward. We'll just, we'll get a picture. Hi, George. This is my nephew, George. Hi, George. And then this is Mimi, my niece, little Mimi. George is 4 years old. Mimi is about 1.5 years. And then my mom and, what's that? Mimi's 1. Yes, she is. She is 1. And then we have Ted and Kula. Ted is my mom's brother, and Kula's his wife. And then we have my dad, Jim. So Ted and Kula live in Katerini, Greece, which is in northern Greece. And we're very happy to have them here in Jefferson City, in the capital city. They have 3 children that are home, and we'd love to have them come back. They've been here before to visit. Filoniki, Maria, and Nikos are their 3 children. They also have grandchildren over there in Greece. So while we're here, we will all say, why don't we all give them a big yasu? Yasu means welcome and hello. So how about 1, 2, 3, yasu? Well, we're glad to have you here, and we'll get a picture with everybody. Or we can say, Opa, if we really want to get wild here tonight. That's true. Their front yard, if you look off their balcony, you can see Mount Olympus. So a lot of you are familiar where that is on the map. And they're also near the ocean to the Aegean Sea. So very fortunate. They have both the mountains and the ocean. So while they're here in Jefferson City, there's been a lot of baking of Greek desserts going on at the house. So that's really fun for me too. So it's wonderful. But we're so honored and so happy to have you here. And as the mayor, it's just my honor to welcome you here to City Hall and have you here. And my niece and nephew, it's their first time to City Hall as well. So we'll get a picture, a family picture. It's fun here at City Hall.
This time just do the 2 buckle ups. Oh, yeah.
It's easier when they
I'll just have it on the chair. It looks like a. Not mocking.
You could get your own grease out,
One, two, three, Oprah. Oprah. Oprah.
OPA, it's like Opa.
Oh.
And then they start breaking the
He
plate.
said Oprah.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oprah!
I threw my hands in the air.
Let's do it again. You didn't throw it.
All right, that was fun. Thank you. Okay, item 5, we have a public hearing, and I will have Mrs. Donaldson read the bill.
2018-54, an ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, changing, amending, and modifying the zoning map of the zoning code of the City of Jefferson by rezoning 41 acres generally described as a portion of the area south of Dunklin Street, east of Highway 54, and west of Jefferson Street, consisting of 139 property parcels from RA2 high-density residential and C2 general commercial to RS4 single-family residential.
Mr. Barron?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a staff-initiated rezoning proposal. It's brought forward as a recommendation of the recently adopted historic Southside Old Municburg Neighborhood Plan. As the clerk read, it does involve 139 different properties. Up on the screen is a boundary of the area shown there in yellow. And so it encompasses a major portion of the south side neighborhood, some of the residential components of it. The existing zoning for the area is an RA2, a multifamily or apartment, residential apartment zoning. That zoning has been in place roughly since the 1970s, and so that neighborhood, which is predominantly single-family in character, has been zoned a multifamily residential for many decades. Staff undertook a land use survey of the neighborhood prior to bringing this rezoning proposal forward. The results of that survey are shown on the screen. There's a lot of different colors there. The two ones that I wanted to point out are the green, which are properties that were identified as being used as single-family residences, and then the red, which are properties that have been identified as being former single-family homes that have been converted into multiple units at some time in the past, which of course was legal under the existing RA2 zoning for the area. There's a variety of other colors up there on the screen that represent different types of multifamily residential, even commercial uses, but within the boundaries of the area, which is shown in a blue line, all of the properties are either green, existing single-family, or red, conversions. As I mentioned, this rezoning proposal is brought forward as a recommendation of the Old Municburg Southside Neighborhood Plan. Up on the screen is the land use plan component of that neighborhood plan. The various colors, the beige color here that is representative of the area outlined in blue, represents a single-family intended land use. So that plan identified that this neighborhood's best use is a single-family residential. So this rezoning would be supporting that plan. It's also worth noting that the 1996 comprehensive plan, the last time that the city went through a comprehensive planning update, also recommended that this area be downzoned, so to speak, to a single-family level. Staff did undertake a neighborhood informational meeting in advance of bringing this forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission. That took place on August 21st. We then proceeded to the Planning and Zoning Commission and represented this at a special meeting on August 28th. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimously for approval of the proposed rezoning. With that, I'll point out one other important item of information. One might ask, what happens to all of the properties shown as red on this map that were legally converted to multiple units at some time in the past? With a downzoning of the neighborhood to a single family, those properties would become non-conforming or grandfathered. They could continue in that multiple unit use in perpetuity until such time as they are either voluntarily converted back to a single-family type of use or voluntarily demolished, and then in which case whatever structure is placed back there would have to be in conformance with the single-family zoning. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have prior to opening the public hearing.
Thank you. Any questions at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we will open the public hearing portion. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on Bill 2018-54? Okay. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing portion and take up the bill. Is there any council discussion, questions, or deliberation? Okay. Seeing none, we will have roll call, please.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hensley. Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather. Schreiber. Ward.
Abstain.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Bill passes. Item 16, appointments by the mayor. There are none this evening. Item 17, presentations from staff, consultants, and invited guests. We do have this evening here, Mr. Bill Luber would like to give us a thank you from Old Municburg Association. So Unless there's any objections, I'll have Mr. Lubert come forward and give us his thank you. Glad to have you back, former Councilman Lubert.
Thank you. I'm Bill Lubert, live at 902 Primrose in the 4th Ward. I'm here as the president of the Old Munichburg Association. And as many of you know, we had our big event last weekend, the Oktoberfest and the Dachshund Derby and lots of other activities surrounding that. And so it became clear to me as I became more involved in this as that it was definitely a necessity that the city cooperate with our doings, and so especially the park system provide us a lot of material and equipment and labor, obviously, and of course that's really an essential. Beyond that, of course, the police department are there through the day, and as far as I know, we didn't have any incidents. I'm very thankful for that. The fire department brought a truck, I think, as part of the Kids Corner activity, and I saw lots of little fellas and girls crawling in and out of the fire truck, and the firemen were helping them, showing them the details of the truck, so that was a nice thing to do. And the street department, of course, is always involved, and I had just found out today that they delayed the mill and overlay of Dunklin Street for a week to accommodate our weekend, and so that was thankful. I was in the neighborhood today and saw them unloading unloading a milling machine and starting down the street, and the street department guy told me about the delay, and I had no idea about that before. But anyway, we had a great day. The weather was almost perfect, and we sold 800 brat sandwiches and almost 400 hot dogs, and so we think that was real good. And the evening before, the ladies at the Central United Church of Christ had a roast beef dinner and served, they tell me, 320 people. And at that time and a little later, we had a German band from Hermann, Missouri, and they presented music, and there's a couple from, I think it's from the Eugene area, who dance, and they are just perfect to watch. They, of course, come dressed in all the regalia and dance the waltzes and all those tunes. So it was, in my mind, that's really a fun part of the event, is to hear the music and watch them dance. So in any case, Mayor, I thank you for coming for the cake tapping and the whatever. Having a senior moment here.
With our Steins. Yeah,
yes, oh yeah, the Stein holding. Mm-hmm. And I saw the mayor there, probably 4 or 5 o'clock even, so she and her mother were there. So anyway, we do appreciate the cooperation and the help that the city gives us, and it really makes our activity possible. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lubert, for Old Munichburg Association and all you do for that entire area of our community. And it's wonderful to connect to the city's German heritage and celebrate that. It was a wonderful event. I know that morning we had Councilwoman Laura Ward was there early that morning working on it, as well as we had Councilman Rick Mihalovich. So the three of us tapped the keg together, along with the Fechtels and Alta Bürgermeister Landwehr, which is the former mayor, although translated means the old mayor, but it's actually a very revered term, Alta Bürgermeister, so next time you see John, you can tell him that. But I know it's great to see Old Munichburg's Oktoberfest growing every year. It's a wonderful event.
It's a great activity. I don't live there, obviously, but I grew up there, so I have a strong connection to the area.
Very, very nice. Anything to add by our council members?
Any questions or comments?
All right.
Thank you all.
Oh, Councilman
Rick?
I would appreciate Laura really. We had a lot of volunteers. The Carpenters Union did all the the brats and hamburger hot dogs, and so be sure to thank all the volunteers when you see them, because they put in a full day's worth of work on that.
Wonderful. Thank
you
Mr.
very much.
Lubert. You're welcome. All right, thanks. Item 8, announcements by mayor, council, and staff. You can see our meetings at jeffersoncitymo.gov and a meeting calendar. Are there any committee meetings that would like to be announced over here? Councilman Hussey?
And just announce that Public Works and Planning will meet on Thursday, October 11th. And if I'm correct, are we changing rooms, Matt? Are we over? We're moved to the council chambers for that.
The auditors will be over there, yes, sir.
Yes, the auditors will be next door, so we'll be in this space for that meeting on October 11th.
Okay. I think the notice came out today, so that's a little confusing.
Oh,
Okay.
so I'm being very proactive here. letting you know.
Very. And I believe administration meets this week, if I'm not mistaken. Is it Wednesday? Is that right? This Wednesday morning. Okay, any other committee announcements? I'll give my announcements. Of course, as you can see, I'm wearing pink. I'm all pinked out today and rocking the pink because, and you are too. All right, wonderful. Thank you. We are in October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so started off the morning at JCMG. They did a group photo and are really trying to get the word out about detection. And as I've done in the past, I would like to remind everyone to get their screenings. And very publicly, when I got my mammogram, which is every 2 years, I went Facebook Live to go to the hospital to show everybody that it's really not a big deal, and the mayor does it too, and we all should do our screenings, whatever they may be. So whatever it is that you need to have screened, please do it. And it's nothing to be ashamed of or embarrassed about or not want to hear the news or the results. You've got to get out there and be proactive because lives can be saved. So please get out there and remember the pink that we're wearing and get out and just get your screenings this month as always. So I want to celebrate that. A few other announcements. We had the Special Olympics games here over the weekend, and that was wonderful to have so many athletes in our community, and they were able to use the new Training for Life facility for some health screenings and things for the athletes. So it was really nice to be able to have that here in Jefferson City. Also, an interesting tidbit is that the city is in the 192nd year of being the capital city of the state of Missouri. So News Tribune artist Jim Dyke posted a neat cartoon about that online today. So that's a neat celebration. I did not bring a birthday cake, but I do have donuts out there. So everybody help yourself to a birthday donut for the city of Jefferson. Also, the USS Missouri crew was here last week, which was an honor to have them here. They presented to the city a piece of teakwood from the USS Missouri, and the plaque reads, "Presented to the city of Jefferson City from the officers and crew of the USS Missouri SSN 780. And it has their coin on here as well, so I'll make sure that we display this here. It's always an honor to have them in our community. We had the crew, of course, of the USS Jefferson City recently, and now the USS Missouri. They also went to Kansas City and St. Louis and Columbia. They went to a Mizzou game. They had a lunch and tour of the governor's mansion. Governor Parson and his wife gave them a wonderful treat to have lunch in the mansion and a great tour. They also went to Honor Flight in Columbia. It worked out just perfectly. They happened to be here for that, and they were able to greet all the veterans as they came off the buses, and it was such an amazing honor to see them all being able to salute each and every veteran. They were so impressed with our Honor Flight. A lot of them had not seen that before or knew that we had such a great program here in Central Missouri. So it was a wonderful, wonderful time to have them here. They are based in Hawaii, and we welcome them back. And I said, if not, I'll be happy to go there and present something to them in Hawaii sometime. So very cool, very proud of all of those who serve our great country. And then also a couple other announcements. This weekend, a lot going on. October 7th on Sunday is the mayor's bike ride. So the mayor's going to ride a bike at 12:30 to 1. So it's quick. It's only 30 minutes because at 1 o'clock we're kicking off Capitol Avenue's second annual Porch Fest. So I believe Parks and Rec is helping me maybe with this bike ride. Somebody's going to help me because the mayor's going to need some help here. I haven't ridden a bike in quite a long time. But I encourage everyone to get out there, get healthy, join the mayor's bike ride. It's a quick trip around downtown. Starts at the intersection, I believe, of Marshall and East Capitol. So who else is with me? Who's riding? Carlos. Oh, Carlos. All right. Are you going to ride? Really? Okay, thank you, Carlos. All right. Carlos is going to... Please. Thank you, Carlos. Okay, everybody. Ken, All right, going around. Okay, we're going to have all the council members. Well, and we do have Councilman Hussey and Kemna will be setting up Porch Fest that day as well. So anything to add about Porch Fest?
Just come on out. It's 1 to 4. I think we've got about 12 porches, live music from 1 to 4, food trucks. So bring your cash to tip the artist, buy some food, and just enjoy. Should be a great day.
It'll be a fun time on Capitol Avenue. So looking forward to that. So hopefully not just limited to council members, everybody out there come out to the Mayor's Bike Ride. Okay, are there any council announcements? All right, so we will go on to item B. We have an announcement for Campo. Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is responsible for long-range transportation planning for the greater Jefferson City area, including St. Martin's, Wardsville, Holt Summit, and Taos, and the county areas in between, is starting their public involvement process for the update of their long-range plan. They've adopted the tagline Campo 2045 and beyond. We are starting out with there's a survey that's going to be going live in the next day or so. There's a URL on the flyer that's handed out. It will be on the Campo and Jeff City webpage. We're starting out with an open house next week, October 10th, either in this room or the room across the hall. I'm not quite sure since it doesn't say. That'll be 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the evening. And then we'll have another meeting north of the river in Holt Summit the following week. I would encourage anybody that is interested in the goals, strategies, and priorities of determining the transportation improvements we have over the next several years to be involved, fill out the survey, or come to an open house. And we hope to be done with the plan hopefully in the spring of next year. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Sanders? Okay, thank you. Item 9, Lincoln University Student Representative Update, Miss Carolyn Winjaro.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yesterday kicked off homecoming. So this whole entire week we have festivities happening at Lincoln University, and you're all invited to come and join in. On Friday, October 5th, is Dr. Woolfolk's inauguration at 10 o'clock. And after that will be the inaugural ball at 7 p.m. at the Link. You're all invited to come out. And what else? It's right around midterm time, so keep us all lifted in prayer for midterms.
Good luck with midterms. I'm sure you'll do great.
Thank you.
And the parade, did you mention the parade
Ooh,
on Saturday?
Yes, and on Saturday, I knew I was forgetting something. Thank you, Madam Mayor. On Saturday morning, we're going to be having a parade. It's going to be, I believe, if I'm not very much so mistaken,
I think at 9:30.
starts at 9:30 in the morning.
It starts, I'll be in the parade, so I should know where it starts, but.
Starts at Broadway and High.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, like it did last.
Like it did last year, yes.
Okay.
Looking forward to that.
Yes, and it's going to be fun. A lot of faculty members will be marshals and students as well, so just come out and have fun.
Great. We'll be looking forward to participating in the homecoming festivities and welcoming alumni back.
And if you can, I believe the international student body will be having a flash mob, so you can dance too while marching in the parade.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I hope I can meet up with the flash mob. We need to make that happen.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Carolyn. Item 10, presentations from the gallery on specific bills or resolutions. We do have Mr. Charles Scornia signed up to speak on Bill 2018-57. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. Wanted to speak a little bit on the revision of Chapter 21, the ordinance that deals with weeds and plants and things in people's yards and stuff in Jefferson City. First of all, I would like to know that I support the resolution as is written. And it does affect me to some extent. We do have our property, for example, on East Miller Street. We are, other than the street, we're surrounded by stormwater drainage, 2 creeks. Allowing, this bill would allow, of course, for native plants and vegetation to occur on your property at a greater extent. This allows for more absorption to prevent more stormwater drainage. So that's a really important aspect. I mean, you multiply that over the city-wide, it's going to help with our stormwater drainage problems. And we do have some property also on Indian Meadow. It's surrounded by Indian Meadow, Red Wing, and Mohawk. And in that particular area there, we're getting a lot of drainage from the street. So far, I estimate we've lost probably maybe 100 dump truck loads of soil because of the water that's flowing from the street. It's concentrated through our property. So if the folks in the land around there would allow a little bit more native vegetation to absorb some of the water, that would help our erosion control in that area there. Eventually that's going to be a real problem because that land will erode back to some of the houses in like maybe 100 years or so. I'll be gone by then. So also the bill of course will allow for some native plants to be flowers and stuff to be planted on empty lots. And we do have 3 empty lots on Indian Meadow there. And again, that would allow some beautification for the native wildflowers and to be presented other than mowing it off with a brush hog every once in a while. So anyway, that's kind of my brief comments on this. I do support the bill, and if you have any questions of me.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
If not,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Scornia. And I'll give you the name of a couple of resources, too, that have more information about this topic. So grownative.org has some information about native plants. And also Mrs. Carol Davitt, and it's spelled D-A-V-I-T, is the executive director of the Missouri Prairie Foundation, and she has some great resources. Her email is Carol Davitt, so it's Carol and D-A-V-I-T, like T as in Tom, caroldavitt@gmail.com. And she is a wonderful resource for what kind of plants can be planted. She sent council an email today and would be happy to visit with any citizens or anyone that would like to know more about native plants and their role in Missouri. So she's also someone good to talk with.
But like I say, it does really define things well, the bill does, so what you can do and can't do, and there was a lot of ambiguity with the other previous ordinance dealing with this that left for a lot for subjective interpretation. And this here is more objective and it's more clearly defined. So thank you very much.
Well, appreciate you. Thank you very much. Okay, item 11, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion? And I know on item C, there was a question at Public Works and Planning about the ramp on High Street that staff did a follow-up with the 2 adjoining property owners and that they were fine with that.
Correct.
Okay. Any further deliberation? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 12, bills introduced, 2018-55.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri approving a preliminary PUD plan for property address as 3410 Sherman's Hollow.
Mr. Barron?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This property is located on the corner of Wildwood Drive and Sherman's Hollow, about a quarter of a mile north of West Edgewood Drive. It's shown highlighted on the screen. It's currently a vacant lot that's been at that corner for a number of years, for sale, I believe. And this is the current zoning situation for the area. The property is zoned to PUD, Planned Unit Development. Just to the north of the property is the Jefferson West apartment complex. Just to the west of the property is a townhouse-style development, residential, attached residential. To the south and to the east is office buildings. The property was recently purchased by the owners of the Jefferson West apartment complex, and is their desire to build 2 residential duplexes on the property and make them available for rent as part of their portfolio in that area. So this is the PUD plan for the development of this vacant lot. It involves digging into the property. There is some slope there, and constructing 2 residential duplexes. The site design is such that the stormwater, some of which runs down toward the townhouse style development to the west, would be redirected, at least for the part that's being developed, toward the road, Sherman's Hollow, and then directed into the stormwater system there on the road. The units would each have a garage for their use. And this is the building elevations that were submitted as part of the PUD plan. So the fronts of the buildings would consist of brick. On the sides of siding, this is similar to the existing townhouse-style development that's adjacent to the property. So they made a conscious effort to design these new buildings in a similar manner as the other residential units in the area. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this application at their meeting on September 13th and voted recommendation for approval of this preliminary PUD plan. Scheduled for a public hearing on October 15th in front of City Council. And that hearing would take place at 6 p.m. here in this room. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Barron? No? Thank you.
I just have a comment, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I do know that
Councilman
at that P&Z meeting, there were several residents in that area who have some concerns about this PUD plan for that address. So I'm sure that they will be reaching out to the council members to voice their concerns that they have in regards to this. Just give you all a heads up.
Thank you, Councilman Graham. Councilman Mahalovich?
I think the major concern was stormwater runoff drainage primarily. I know there's a note here, erosion and settlement control will be needed with the final plan, so as long as that's adequately addressed, that would be the only complaint I'd heard, but there may be more.
I know that was the major concern, and then there was the other one was I think the fact that most of those places, all those places in that area are owned and not rental. So that was another big concern that they had. So,
Mr. Marash?
Yeah, and just on the stormwater front, I know our staff met with some of the adjacent property owners and discussed they had issues already and gave them some ideas of how to improve their situation. Besides, we're taking this water off of the site that's coming at them now with this project, and I think they're very receptive to those ideas.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. 2018-56.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a $163,886 agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for Metropolitan Transportation Planning Services for the period of November 1, 2018 to October 31st, 2019, reflecting consolidated planning grant funds as approved in the FY 2019 Unified Planning Work Program.
Mr. Sanders?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the clerk indicated, this would fund the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization for the next fiscal year. The Board of Directors approved a work program and approved this amount. The grant is for $168,000. There is a match required, and I would like to point out that the numbers in the bill summary are incorrect. The city's portion of the grant would be $30,729. Cole County would be responsible for $10,243. That would be 20% of the grant amount. The exhibit with the actual ordinance is correct. I just wanted to explain that that was incorrect. The money is already in the city budget, and I would be glad to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay. 2018-57.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 21, Nuisances, Article 2, Weeds Code of the City of Jefferson.
Mrs. Abbott? Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight, staff is bringing forward a staff-initiated amendment to the Chapter 21, Article 2, Weeds section. And this proposed amendment is really to strengthen this article to provide more of an objective interpretation as to what is allowed or not allowed in terms of native planting, also for landscaping, turf grass, noxious weeds, etc. So I'm going to actually, we have a presentation that was presented before the Public Works and Planning Committee during the August meeting, and I'm going to turn it over to Dave Helmick, who is our property inspector. Yes, lead property inspector.
So what we look to do with this ordinance is to amend the section of definitions, clarifying the definitions of the terms used. Currently, under the ordinance, the term weeds is used. It doesn't specify native plants, things like woods or native vegetation behind properties. So what we did is we expanded that section and added the definition so that it breaks it down further. We amended section 2119, public nuisances. This specifies conditions constituting a nuisance, and then also expanded the exceptions to allow for native plantings and managed landscapes. Under the native plantings and managed landscapes, that doesn't allow a homeowner just quit mowing their grass. In the presented potential ordinance, it does specifically call out what is not allowed, what is allowed. And then amending section 2120 and 2121, clarifying it's unlawful to allow vegetation to be in violation of the article. That would still allow the same enforcement we have currently. So according to the EPA and the Department of Agriculture, these are the noxious weeds for the state of Missouri. Currently, those are the same noxious weeds that we enforce. It just specifically spells them out. Nuisance weeds, currently we enforce nuisance weeds. This just spells it out clearly. Butterfly gardens, this is something under the current code that is really a gray area. What the code that we're bringing forward does is allows people to cultivate wild plants, butterfly gardens, in a controlled setting like what you see on the screen there. Currently in the code, and agricultural lots in the city limits are to have a 15-foot buffer on all sides that are up to streets or residential or commercial properties. Under the new ordinance, what we're looking at is a 15-foot buffer on undeveloped lots as well. Currently, there's no wording that specifies what needs to happen there, so this would allow us to enforce a buffer on those lots. Steep slopes with vegetation. This involves mainly the stormwater issues. Steep slopes, anything greater than a 20-degree angle, would be allowed to have native or cultivated vegetation on it, pending that it's free of noxious and invasive species of weeds. Native and ornamental vegetable gardens, vegetation. So basically, as long as it's cultivated, it's native plantings, there's a buffer, and it's free of noxious weeds or invasive species, it would be allowed under the new ordinance. Violations stay the same, and the enforcement of those violations would stay the same. Noxious weeds of any height, invasive species, turf weeds, turf grasses over 12 inches in height would still be a violation and would be enforced the same way it is currently. Vegetation impeding traffic, whether it's foot or vehicle traffic, and then also unmaintained lots in residential neighborhoods would continue to remain a violation.
And in developing the ordinance, I went through and looked at many other cities as well as state and federal agencies for what they recommend and what works and what's beneficial to the urban landscape. And then we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Helmig. Are there any questions of council? Okay, that was a very clear presentation, so thank you. Item 2018-58.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Section 19-401, Motor Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the City of Jefferson by the modification of a portion of West Ashley Street.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. This was a citizen request to the Traffic and Transportation Commission, and basically just adds one additional parking space back to West Ashley, just west of Jefferson.
Any questions? All right, thank you. 2018-59.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Section 19-401, Motor Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the City of Jefferson by the modification of Norman Drive.
Mr. Marash?
Again, a traffic and transportation item. It would remove parking on Norman Drive, kind of adjacent to the bus, first student bus area.
Any questions? Thank you. 2018-60.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 19, Motor Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the City of Jefferson by the deletion of Section 86, Roundabout, subparagraph F.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. Again, another traffic and transportation issue, Traffic and Transportation Commission issue. Staff noticed we have a section in the code called roundabouts where it just lists roundabout intersections, so we don't remember to go back and add them when we construct new roundabouts. It gets out of date pretty quickly. Other than that, it doesn't do anything regulatory. So we requested that we just remove that section. We don't list other types of intersections, and seems somewhat confusing to do.
Any questions? All right, thank you. 2018-61.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, endorsing the reconfiguration of Jeff Tran routes.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. This bill would indicate our proposed changes to the Jeff Tran routes. There's been a extensive public process to discuss these changes with the public and the users of the routes. We've had, I think, at least 3 or 4 meetings on the topic already. To actually make the changes, though, does require a public hearing in front of the council, and with the council then approving them. That meeting would take place at our next council meeting, and that has to be advertised in a certain manner to comply with the federal code. So that is scheduled for your next meeting. We'll go through that more extensively and talk about some of the changes, but I would characterize them as slight modifications to the existing routes. So there's no new routes added or extended hours, anything like that. That's what was most commented on, obviously. And then this, with our new passenger counters, electronic passenger counters, we were able to actually see where people were getting on and off the bus and try to tweak our routes so that we could maximize our efficiency in picking folks up.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Speaking of Jeff Tran, I should have announced that the ride-free day is a week from tonight on Monday, October 8th.
Correct.
People can ride free Jeff Tran that day, so would invite council members and the public to ride Jeff Tran.
It's on Columbus Day.
Columbus Day.
Is that right?
Yes, I think so. Okay, thank you. 2018-62.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, establishing rules for quorum and electronic participation for all city boards and commissions.
Mr. Molman?
Thank you. This is a request that originated out of the Human Relations Commission, and this has a bit of an interesting history. Previously, the City Council has authorized particular boards and commissions to have participation in meetings through electronic means. Within the last couple of years, the council has approved the Cultural Arts Commission and the Environmental Quality Commission to have participation in meetings through electronic means. And a similar request came up through the Human Relations Commission. And at the committee level, the discussion was, instead of doing this on a piecemeal basis, why don't we make a policy that applies to all boards and commissions within the city? So what we have in front of us here is a little bit complicated, and I'll try to go through it. So generally what we have a rule is that boards and commissions only count toward a quorum with members that are physically present at the meeting, except as provided in this bill. And the bill establishes that any member of a board or commission of the city who's not physically present at the meeting can participate in discussion by electronic means, and that only electronic voting can happen where the boards have been authorized. And then you get into the meat of the ordinance, which provides the rules for electronic participation. And so generally, all boards and commissions of the city are allowed to both have voting by electronic means and also establish a quorum through electronic means, unless that power has been withheld from a particular board or commission. And then even for those boards or commissions which are authorized to establish quorums through electronic means, they have to give the member who wishes to participate through electronic means has to give 48 hours notice to the chair of the board or commission and to the city clerk. And essentially what that does is that builds in some lead time for staff to prepare for that electronic participation. This area of state law in the Sunshine Law is still fairly new and not 100% developed on what cities need to do in order to have this type of electronic participation. It is contemplated within the law, within the Sunshine Law, but it's not really clearly set forth what we have to do. And so this ordinance tries to fill in those gaps and gives us plenty of time to try to fill in those gaps and make sure that we're complying with Sunshine Law when someone is participating through electronic means, because it's not only the members that have to be aware of the people who are participating electronically, but also any public that wishes to observe the meeting as well. And so that is the general rule for boards and commissions. And then the administration committee withheld the ability to establish quorums through electronic means through several boards or commissions where it's just not appropriate. Those boards are Planning and Zoning Commission, Board of Adjustment, Historic Preservation Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission, Police Personnel Board, Transportation and Traffic Commission, the Plumbing Examiners and Review Board, Electrical Examiners and Review Board, Tax Increment Financing Commission, and the Facade Improvement Committee. Essentially, there's kind of two criteria that went into that list. It's either A, you have to have physical members present for due process reasons. Some of these boards take governmental action. They exercise part of the sovereign powers of the city, through issuing things like variances, in the case of the Board of Adjustment, or actually issuing licenses in the case of electronic or plumbers boards. And then there's other commissions like the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Transportation and Traffic Commission. While they don't take affirmative actions like that, their essential purposes are really kind of usurped when the public isn't able to come to meetings and have one-on-one, face-to-face conversations with the people that sit on those boards. And so it kind of creates a complicated system, but we think this is the best way to do it, to make sure that we're complying with both state law, Sunshine Law, and then also kind of fundamental due process law as well. So that's fairly complicated. I'm happy to answer any questions, and this has been going through the administration committee for since early summer, it seems like, and there's been several versions of this. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to help out.
All right, any questions? All right. Well, thank you for that explanation. You were pretty clear, so appreciate it. Item 13, bills pending 2018-45.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 30 Solid Waste, Article 1, Code of the City of Jefferson, pertaining to the definition of responsible party.
Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could you go to the next slide, please? This bill would authorize changing the responsible parties definition in Chapter 30 of the Solid Waste section of Code. Basically, right now, a responsible party is defined as the property owner, and they're required to maintain trash service for all units that are occupied, except that a owner of a single-family residence or duplex may assign that responsibility to the tenant. The change would redefine the responsible party as the property owner, and the property owner of those, any property owner can assign the responsibility to a tenant through a through a separate contractual agreement, but the property owner themselves would still be responsible for obtaining trash service. We have previously presented some statistics that show an overwhelming majority of certain types of trash accumulation or no service trash violations are largely within rental properties, 1 and 2 single unit family dwellings. And I can go through the whole PowerPoint again if you wish, or I'd be glad, or my staff would be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Are there any questions? Councilman Hussey?
Just for clarity's sake, I think it's, the owner's responsible, they're able to transfer that so that the tenant is able to contact Republic Services, and Republic Services will give trash service to the tenant and not require the owner, correct?
Correct.
Because I know that was kind of a...
To the best of my knowledge,
a couple
yeah,
hiccups
Republic
along
has
the
no
way.
problem with that.
And
yes.
if we come across a situation where we determine there's not trash service and it's a problem, I mean, we can work with the property owner who should have an agreement with the tenant to have taken care of this, and that becomes an issue between the two of them to figure out. But it gives us a point of contact now with the property owner.
Yes, sir. The issue we really had was the property owner told us that the tenant was responsible, and we didn't know who the tenant was. So it helps foster communication. Yes, sir.
Correct. And I would just, not a question, but just add that I know the Board of Realtors has been here to speak on this, and I know that this language has been shared with them and that they're supportive of this, and it alleviated their concerns. I appreciate council taking some time on this particular bill to work through those changes, and Councilman Hensley's not here tonight, but he had drafted some language as well that ultimately led to this. So I look at this as a thorough process to take the interest of varying parties into consideration to come up with a policy that better serves the city on its enforcement mechanism, and also clarifies for property owners, landlords, realtors, specifically what their responsibility is as well. Thank you.
Councilman Prather and then Mahalovich.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand. The primary responsibility, what it used to be, was the tenants. But now the primary or ultimate responsibility is going to be on the landlord. Even though they would transfer that to the tenant, they're still ultimately liable for making sure they have trash service.
Ultimately, yes, sir, but if they have an agreement with the tenant, we would certainly go after them first before the landlord.
But if the tenant skips town, you're going to go after the landlord?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Councilman Mahalovich?
That was my question.
Okay. Any further questions? Councilman Hussey?
And I would probably add, my guess would be those particular instances are probably few and far between. I mean, based on the statistics we had, I mean, compliance rate was extremely high. I think we're looking at some unique situations where we have a tenant that does not have trash service and it leads to a serious problem. But you would agree, I think, that for the large majority of our properties in this community, we have compliance and we don't foresee really an issue here.
Yes, sir, but we have trouble enforcing the ones that we do have issues with. And if I may address Councilman Prather's question. If the tenant skips town at that point, the unit's no longer occupied, so the landlord does not need to have that trash service?
Councilman Mahalovich?
Well, but ultimately, they're responsible for paying the bill, right? The landlord would have to be paying the bill?
This actually doesn't affect the billing of the contract between the tenant and Republic. This is just who is responsible for making sure that unit is livable. The billing is set up between Republic and the tenant. That has nothing to do with what the city enforces. We don't go after billing. We don't go after any of that. Currently, the way it is with a single-family home, if the tenant leaves and has a $100 bill with sewer or trash, any of those, it still remains in that person's name. All we're talking about is if we discover that a tenant's living there with their 2 kids, there's no trash service, we send a 10-day notice to the owner as well as the occupant, giving them notice saying, hey, we found out that there's no trash service here, giving them an opportunity to do it. At that time, the owner of that property could look at their contract they have with their tenant and say, under my lease, you're required to have it. If they still allow the person to stay there, there's an accumulation of trash. DFS calls us. Ultimately, it's going to be the landlord's responsibility to make sure that any occupied unit has trash service. The billing is nothing, doesn't involve this at all. This is just, you can't have somebody living in an occupied structure that doesn't have heat, water, sewer, trash, and that's all under international building code and property maintenance code. Doesn't involve the billing at all.
Thank you. Further questions or deliberation, discussion? Okay. We have a substitute bill, so did we have that last time?
Yep.
Okay, so we're ready to vote then. Okay, roll call, please.
Graham,
Aye.
Hensley, Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
No.
Schreiber. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Bill passes. 2018-51.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri amending the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget of the City of Jefferson, Missouri by appropriating additional funds within the J.C. Veterans Plaza Trust Fund.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. And just for everybody's information, in case you don't know, the little plaza in front of the police station that honors veterans is referred here as the Veterans Plaza. And that plaza has its own fund, and right now there's about $132,000 in it to help maintain it, purchase bricks, things like that. So when people buy a brick, the money goes into this fund. So what this bill would do is make a supplemental appropriation from that fund into the budget so that we can start or obtain the design services of Architects Alliance to figure out how to do a expansion of that project. And all the bricks, all the spaces in the raised viewing boxes are taken up with bricks with names on them, so this would help figure out how to do an expansion of that.
Great. Any questions? Council deliberation? Roll call, please.
Hensley, Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Bill passes, and thank you. That's a great tribute to our veterans, so it's good to see that. 2018-53.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for the maintenance of sidewalks on Missouri Boulevard constructed by project number TAP-3100 524.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. This is a sidewalk maintenance agreement with MoDOT. We're actually getting ready to bid a project on Missouri Boulevard sidewalk. We have a grant to do that, Waverly to Beck Street. So this grant basically, or this paperwork basically indicates the city's responsible to see to it that the sidewalk is maintained over its life. We'll do that through operating of the city code, which actually adjacent property owners are responsible for maintaining sidewalk, so it might become a code enforcement issue. So, you have to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hensley.
Bill passes. 2018-54 we've taken up. Item 14, informal calendar, we have item A through E. And I believe Councilman Hussey intends to, or I'm sorry, and Fitzwater intend to leave that, or it dies after this evening, so, okay. Item 15, resolutions, RS 2018-16.
A resolution encouraging voters to inform themselves about Missouri Proposition D and to vote at the November 6, 2018 election.
Mr. Molman.
Thank you. This resolution provides educational information to the voters of the city of Jefferson and encourages them to participate in the November 6, 2018 general election. Specifically, this resolution talks about Proposition D. Proposition D is a ballot measure that will appear at the November 6 election. And what it would do, it would raise the state motor fuel tax by 10 cents, which is phased in over 4 years, 2.5 cents per year. What this bill is projected to do is to raise over 124 million additional dollars for local projects. That includes approximately an anticipated amount of over $670,000 in new annual funding for street and bridge projects. The funds of Proposition D are constitutionally restricted to 3 uses, which are specifically road and bridge projects, the funding of the actual cost of the Missouri State Highway Patrol enforcement of local laws, and the cost of collecting the tax.
Thank you, Mr. Molman. Do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion or deliberation? Councilman Graham?
So this, this Proposition D, in no way, shape, form, or fashion says that we support or oppose the proposition. It just says that we strongly encourage citizens to get educated. About Proposition D.
and then to vote in the
To vote.
election, but not in either direction.
Okay, all right.
Which is what's allowable by, we are, as a body, we are charged with doing the educational piece.
I just want to make sure that that's what we were doing only, because
Yes.
I don't want it to get twisted, that we did something else.
We
So I wanted to make
stay within the realm
clear
of what we're allowed,
of what we're
what's
doing.
allowable.
Correct.
Yes.
This
From a
is
city body.
merely educational.
Yes.
Yes. Personally, however, we are allowed to certainly endorse at a personal level. Any questions or comments? I know this is, Prop D is a very important proposition. There is more information at safermo.com. Councilman Fitzwater?
I was just going to add, this issue has been vetted by the legislature for a number of years, so I think there's been a lot of discussion on both sides. I mean, folks are going to decide on their own, but it is a critical issue for the state of Missouri. There's been a lot of input. The legislature sent it to the ballot overwhelmingly. I think people need to get engaged and find out what it does, but it is very important for our community, our county, and our state.
Thank you, Councilman Fitzwater. And, of course, Lieutenant Governor Kehoe has made presentations about this here in Jefferson City, and some council members were there to hear and learn more about this. And also, Governor Mike Parson has been very instrumental. So it's great to see the governor and lieutenant governor moving forward and working together to educate and promote this initiative. So just, again, a reminder to everyone to vote in November. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hensley. Hussey.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Item 16, presentations from the gallery. We have no one signed up this evening. Item 17, council and staff discussion of presentation topics. Any council comments this evening? Item 18, any new business? 19, any unfinished business? I do remember there's donuts and coffee outside for birthday, for Jefferson City, birthday being the capital, so please grab one on your way out. Item 20, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, all in favor say aye.